The boy deliberately stretched his hand toward the wild wolf's mouth, urging it to take a bite while it was still warm. The wolf didn't hesitate. It bit down hard. His companion, startled, immediately grabbed his hunting rifle and rushed out the door. Frightened by the noise, the wolf quickly released its grip, but the boy gestured for his companion to put the gun down. The companion was stunned, suspecting that the boy had gone mad from fear. Then, to his surprise, the boy once again extended his arm, signaling that the wolf was only holding his hand gently. It wasn't biting. Seeing this, the companion felt as if he were dreaming, finally letting out a sigh of relief. But the truth was, the boy and this wolf shared a deep connection. Years ago, the wolf had been a carefree little pup, living happily with his loving mother, until one day, when the mother wolf went out to hunt and was shot by a hunter. Using the last of her strength, she crawled back to the den, just to make sure her child was safe. The little wolf smelled her scent and ran out excitedly to greet her, only to find his mother lying motionless on the ground. She looked at her child one last time, before slowly closing her eyes forever. The young pup didn't understand what death meant. He thought his mother was simply tired. He gently licked her fur, but she didn't respond. Confused and helpless, he lay on her body, waiting quietly for her to wake up. Time passed, and heavy snow began to fall. The cold woke him up, but his mother was already covered in ice and snow. It was then that he realized she would never wake up again. Heartbroken, he let out a long, sorrowful howl into the wind. Without his mother's care, the frozen world was merciless to the little wolf. Suddenly, he saw a distant wolf pack and rushed toward them, hoping for shelter. But his weak body couldn't handle the deep snow. After falling several times, exhausted, he could only watch as the pack disappeared into the distance. Eventually, he wandered to a small stream. Luckily, there were some stranded fish there, but having never learned how to hunt, he could only stare helplessly. Fish wouldn't just jump into his mouth. In the end, he drank some fish soup and moved on. Starving and desperate, the little wolf began chewing on tree bark. Just when he thought all hope was lost, he spotted what looked like a rabbit on a tree branch ahead. Without thinking, he leapt toward it, his mind filled only with the thought of food, but he didn't notice the trap below. After a few jumps, the little wolf found himself caught, hanging in the air beside the rabbit. Terrified, he struggled violently as humans approached. The tribe's chief noticed the wolf's white teeth and realized it was a rare wolf-dog hybrid. With training, it could become stronger than any working dog. The chief took the little wolf back to his village and named him White Fang. Though confused and unwilling at first, White Fang eventually adapted to life in the tribe. He had food, shelter, and a place to belong. Years passed, and White Fang grew up, no longer the fragile pup who drank fish soup, but a powerful hunter. One day, two gold prospectors came to the village. One of them, named Jack, was immediately drawn to White Fang's handsome and melancholic appearance. While the chief wasn't looking, Jack tried to pet the wolf. To the tribe, White Fang was just a tool, an animal for labor, easily replaced. Even among the dogs, he was feared and isolated. At night, he would stand alone by the river, howling to express his loneliness. He had food and shelter, but no friends and no family. The next day, Jack wandered into the forest. He suddenly realized White Fang was following him, but before he could react, White Fang darted into the bushes. In truth, he wasn't attacking. He was protecting Jack, for the forest was full of danger. Moments later, a massive 400-kilogram brown bear appeared behind Jack. Paralyzed with fear, Jack froze, then bolted into a pile of logs. The furious bear began smashing at the logs, even managing to grab Jack's arm with its claws. Just as all hope seemed lost, White Fang lunged forward. The bear roared furiously, and White Fang hesitated for a moment, but then used cunning over strength. He circled around to distract the bear and stood firmly between it and Jack, refusing to back down. Seeing the fierce determination in White Fang's eyes, the bear finally gave up and retreated. Jack was in shock. He never imagined a wild wolf would risk its life to save him. Before he could thank him, White Fang had already disappeared into the forest. Later, when Jack decided to leave the village to seek gold elsewhere, he found White Fang by the lake, staring into the distance. Jack thanked him for saving his life and left some dried meat behind. White Fang, too, felt a strange warmth toward Jack, something he hadn't felt since his mother's death. As Jack sailed away, he turned to see White Fang silently watching him from the shore. Neither knew it yet, but their fates had already become intertwined. Time passed, and White Fang returned to his work with the tribe. One day, while helping the chief transport supplies, a few thugs appeared with vicious dogs. They wanted to test the wolf's strength. White Fang tried to ignore them, but when provoked, he fought back, subduing the dogs with ease. The men were astonished. Realizing his value, they decided to capture him for dog fighting. Before they could act, the chief arrived and apologized to the men, even giving them valuable furs to keep the peace. He was an Indian and didn't want trouble with colonizers. But the thugs demanded more, either the wolf or the chief's freedom. Helpless, the chief handed White Fang over. Locked in a cage, White Fang refused to yield, but beaten and tortured, he could only suffer in silence. Eventually, he was taken to the fighting pit, forced to battle other dogs for the crowd's entertainment. At first, he panicked, but when attacked, his survival instincts took over. One swift strike, and his opponent fell, lifeless. White Fang felt guilt, but his captors only cared about money. Fight after fight, he won again and again, earning them a fortune, but receiving only pain in return. His His hatred for humans grew deeper than ever, until one day he was forced to fight a small bull terrier. At first he seemed to have the advantage, but soon realized the small dog was far deadlier than it looked. As the fight turned brutal, the owner whipped White Fang cruelly. Then, out of nowhere, a young man burst in with a gun. It was Jack, who had returned. He pointed the weapon at the man's chest, stopping the fight. Seeing White Fang severely injured, Jack rushed forward, pried open the bull terrier's jaws, and carried the wolf away. Back at his cabin, Jack treated White Fang's wounds. The wolf survived, but his eyes were full of despair. Jack could tell that something inside him was broken. To help him heal, Jack took White Fang into the forest where he mined for gold. Though the wolf received better care than ever before, his distrust of humans remained. He avoided contact and even bit Jack's hand once, but Jack didn't get angry. Instead, he looked at him with compassion. He didn't know what White Fang had endured, but he knew it must have been terrible. He believed that time and sincerity could heal anything. After many days, White Fang finally began to accept food directly from Jack's hand. Little by little, Jack began to pet him while he ate. Feeling the warmth of his hand, the once fierce wolf finally began to let his guard down.